So I came out here in 1990, go to the Rampa School, and when I was in New York, the last thing I was doing, what happened to the guitar? There we go, there's the D, all right. Oh my God. Forgetting how to play guitar. Anyway, I moved out here in 1990, and the last thing I had done in New York was I had been a commercial beach cleaner. I had a business, and I had 2 machines that were like modified potato pickers, and instead of picking potatoes, they harvested garbage by sifting, so that the screening plates would dig into the sand, and conveyor blades would pull the sand up over the screening plates, and whatever went through the holes in the screening plates would go back on the sand, and that's how they harvest potatoes. You come along in the field, and the machine picks up the potatoes and all the greenery and the dirt goes through the holes and goes back on the ground, and the potatoes get swept up by conveyor blades all the way back into a rear hopper, and that's what we eat. All right, it's the hopper, the potatoes in the hopper, and so that's what I was using to clean garbage. And the business was called Sand Sifter, and I ran it pretty well. I ran it for 8 years, and the last year that I was running Sand Sifter, I had sold a couple machines and made a few bucks, and I declared $250,000 on my income tax for 1990 or 1989. And I come out here and I start telling stories and going to open mics. I even went to a comedian comedy club that started trying to with Vanda.
Really?
Yeah, she was my coach. Vanda is another Rampa student that is a comedian that is a road warrior, has lived with Paul and everything like that. So there's a lot of different circles here that are overlapping and things like that. And I only made $324. And that's what I put on my 1040. And I got a letter in the mail saying, "Greetings, Mr. Smith. The IRS would like to talk to you about your 1990 tax return." I walk in there and I was nervous because I had lied to the IRS. I didn't make $324. I only made $296. But I bloated it up to $324 because I was embarrassed. And knowing that I had lied to the federal government, I was nervous, so I brought in a tape recorder. So in case they really went hardball on me, then I could prove my case, right? So I walk in, and the auditor says, "Oh, you're going to tape record this?" I said, "Yes, I am. It's my legal right as a citizen of the United States." And then she said, "Yeah, right. If you're going to do that, Mr. Smith, I'm required by law that we will have to have a third-party, neutral third-party witness the proceedings." So she leaves, and I don't know where she went to go find a neutral third-party observer in the IRS building here in Olympia, just up on the hill, not too far away from you, right just down the street from you, Heidi, right? And she comes back about 10 minutes later with another woman that's carrying a lot of manila folders in her hand. It looks like she's dealing with the tax returns from the Boeing Corporation, people dealing with things more than $324. And so the first auditor says, "Mr. Smith, would you please tell us what your business plan is, what your business model, what you've been doing, what your activities are been, and what you hope to accomplish, and how much money you think you might really reasonably earn in the next coming year?" So I figured, okay, that she just wants me to talk about myself, and I'm happy to do that. So I'm rambling on, giving her the Bruce Smith story. And the second neutral third-party observer leaves. And the neutral third-party observer looks me in the eye and says, "Mr. Smith, have you ever told stories at the Wolf Haven Wildlife Sanctuary in Tenino, Washington?" I said, "Oh yeah, that's a great gig. I got $35 a night there." She said, "Margaret, I've heard him tell stories. It was dark, so I didn't recognize him facially, but I know the voice. He's really a very good storyteller." So they let me go. As I'm driving away from the IRS down the I-5, I heard this song in the back of my head. Don't you give up your song, even though you're alone. You don't know who is listening and needs you to go on. Don't you give up your song, even though the night is long. You don't know who's dancing and needs you to go on. Sometimes you give it a rest, sometimes you give it your best. Sometimes you get ignored, other times there's a knock on the door. And just like my Grammy said, even if you lose it all, if you look down deep inside, you know you'll find a song. So don't you give up your song, even though you're alone. You don't know who is listening and needs you to go on. Don't you give up your song, even though you're alone. You don't know who is dancing and needs you to go on. Thank you. IRS.